Greetings and welcome to Patriot 6 again. In this episode, I'm going to show you how to add your own ground textures and make the textures blend in with the surrounding area. I'm presently located at KTYS, Knoxville, Tennessee, McGee-Tyson Airport. I selected this airport for a reason. I have recently changed the ground textures at this airport. Now, this airport was rebuilt by an individual. They did a really good job. I have seen payware that looks worse than the job that this person did here at McGee-Tyson Airport. So kudos to the creator. And if you look around and look at all of the buildings, there's a lot of detail that were added in. Like the hotel over here has the hotel logo on it. And this person went through a lot of trouble and did a really good job. So let's change the time of day to daylight. And I'll show you what I don't like about this. The creator changed the ground textures here. And I understand why, because the ground was in bad shape. But the ground textures really do not blend in with the surrounding area. It stands out as fake to me. I'm not knocking the person because, like I said, they did a great job on this airport. But when I got this mod, I wanted to improve the texture so the ground blends in better. So let's see what we can do with it. Before I upload each video, I go through the video and mark timelines to set chapters. And I do this to make it more convenient for the viewer. Anytime you're watching one of the videos, you can drop down to the description, tick on the Show More, and as you roll through the Show More, it will have pertinent information like the Patriot Six Channel, the Patriot Six Scenery Group, Discord, any videos that I believe are relevant to the subject, and then you get into the chapters of the video. This is the subject content, and here are the basic tutorials. You can skip around, or you can come back and find a chapter that you may need to rewatch later simply by ticking on the number. And you will immediately go to the chapter that you selected. First of all, I have already prepared a scenery folder, Patriot 6 KTYS textures. I'm not going to walk all the step-by-step processes that it takes to do this. I will walk through the ones that are relevant just to this particular action. However, if you're new and you don't know the basics, immediately following this video will be about 24 minutes of tutorials. The tutorials will show you all the basics that you need. It will show you how to build scenery folders. It will show you how to build polygons. And the tutorials will show you how to use a developer camera. There's about 8 different tutorials put together. You may not need them all. Everything is there that people need if they're starting from scratch and learning how to build scenery. And it will be following this tutorial. So I'll work on a small area here. Obviously, I'm already at the airport, and if you've noticed, I'm in developer mode. So I'm going up to the Dev menu. I'm going to tick on Tools and bring up the Project Editor. And the Project Editor is up, and we will also need the Inspector. So on the Project Editor menu, I'm going to View and tick on Inspector. And now on the Project Editor, I want to open the scenery package, which I pre-built for this project. So I will go to Project, Open Project, and by memory it automatically navigates to the Working Scenery folder where I house all of my projects that I'm working on. And here is Patriot 6 KTYS Textures. I'm going to open this folder. I'm going to drop down to the Scenery Project XML and open. And now once the Scenery Project XML has opened, you will see the generic package name appear below in the project editor. I'm going to tick on the generic package and bring the information up into the inspector. And now I'm going to change the package name, and I want the name to be the same as the scenery folder. This is subjective. You may want something different. I like the package's name to be the same as the scenery folder. If I ever look and see what mods are in my community folder, and I see a particular mod that's in my community folder that I built, and I want to go back and find the original scenery folder and redo some of the work, it's real simple because everything has the same name. That's the concept I'm using. The company name is going to be Patriot 6. And the rest of the package name is going to be KTYS-textures. And now for the content manager, I'm simply going to call this KTYS textures. And of course, I'm going to give it my company name. You can stick with the default thumbnail, but I like to have my own personal thumbnails on my packages. So I'm going to tick on it, navigate to the working scenery folder, grab the package thumbnail I use, and open. And now I'm going to rename the BGL and the ModelLib. So for the BGL, instead of my scene, I'm going to enter in KTYS texture and leave the word scene in there. And so now it is KTYS texture scene BGL instead of my scene. Now I'm going to tick on the My ModelLib, and the My ModelLib shows up here in the inspector, and I'm just going to take out my and enter KTYS texture, and now it is KTYS texture ModelLib. And with the BGL and the ModelLib renamed and the package renamed to Patriot 6 KTYS texture, I'm going to tick on the package. And this is a step you cannot miss. You must do this or you will be stuck right here. With all of the information changed, now I must build the initial package. So on the inspector, I'm going to tick Build Package. And I'm going to say yes to the dialog box because it's simply letting me know that the information saved to disk has changed. And it changed because I changed it. So yes. The package is built, and if you look into the top left-hand corner of the console, you'll see errors, but you'll see 0. I have not introduced any errors into this. So I can now remove the console. You can go to Window and tick on it, or you can hit the X over here in the right-hand corner. Either way works. The console is now removed. Back up on the developer menu, I'm going to Tools, and I'm going to open the scenery editor. And once the scenery editor is opened, I'm going down to the menu on the scenery editor, View, and the gizmo's already up, which is fine, and I'm going to bring up Objects. It will take a while for all of the scenery objects in your library to load into the Objects window. In addition to that, I'm going to need the material editor. So on the Dev menu under Tools, I'm going to tick on Material Editor. And it's up over on the second monitor. Now to add a texture, we're going to use a polygon. But first, before I do that, I will tell you that every time you get ready to add objects, and you want to add objects from the scenery library, you want to make sure you tick this All button. That ensures everything in your scenery library is available to you. But now, on the Objects window, I'm going to change from Scenery to Polygon. And I'm going to draw out a polygon. And now the polygon is built. I'm going down on the scenery editor, view, and bring up properties. And now with the polygon selected down here in the scenery editor, here are the properties of the polygon, which right now doesn't have anything in it. It's an empty polygon. But over on the material editor, I'm going to go to a Sobo ground. And I typically like to use this grass gemma. I believe that's the one I like. So I'll grab it. Got a hold of the grass gemma. And I'm going to slide it over into the materials on the properties window. And now the grass is in there. Now, one of the things you can do is reduce the amount of tiling. You can see the tiling there, and by going to the tiling on the properties, you can make it look more like this, or you can spread it out and let it blend a little bit. It's up to you, but you can play around with the tiling to get what you think is the best look. Now, this grass is very green, which is very similar to what the other creator did. But if you take a closer look to the grass around here in Knoxville, it has a little more of a blue tint to it. So on a properties window, you can grab the coloration window and you can move around and you can pick a color. Okay, so we'll say I picked that color there. Certainly it's not good, but it's a start. And you can start to see the amount of red, green, and blue in this. And you can play around with this if you want to and use the coloration to your liking. I tend to get into the raw numbers and start to move those to get what I'm looking for. Now I'm going from memory, but thinking I'll get us in the ballpark. A little more blue maybe. So I'm going to put in some parameters that I've used in the past closer to Nashville that worked, and then I'll adjust from there. So 109 red, 113 green, and 72 blue. That color doesn't match as well here as it did in the location where I was working in Nashville. I think we can probably bring the blue up a little bit and get it there. So what I'm going to do is drag this polygon over here so that I'm really close to the grass and play around with the colors and get something closer matching. That's almost transparent, so that tells me I'm in the ballpark. Okay, it looks a little strange because it's around this blue, but if you compare it to over here, it's fine. So we'll use those parameters. So let me build one more, use the same parameters, and show you something else you can do. Let me bring the grass in. That was a grass gemma, a Sobo ground. And you can play around with all the different grasses and find the one that suits your needs. Now, I could go back, tick on this one, look at the parameters, 83, 93, 75. Apply those to this. Okay, that's the same color. You see the tiling. So again, you can take the tiling all the way down, but to me that looks too fake. So I typically will bring the tiling up and where you can see a little bit of the earth come through at places. To me that looks better. Opinions vary, it's up to you. So one more thing, let me move this a little bit. Never mind the roads are here, I'm just showing you something that you can do. If I tick off of it and look at it, it blends pretty good, but to make it blend a little better, you can go to the properties and you can start adding fall off. This gradually causes the texture to fall off. And when you have it fall off in an area that's wide open like this, it blends better. In an enclosed area up here, fall off does not matter. But down here, fall off may be important. So let's add some fall off to it. And I can simply just start typing in some numbers, 50 meters, see how that looks. And if I wanted to add 100 meters just for the fun of it and see what happens. Now you can start to see how much better it blends in. You get rid of the distinct lines, you add some fall off, and it gradually goes from the base texture to this texture here. It doesn't have extreme cutoffs. You can see where this creator did add a fall off, but the green he used and the texture he used simply does not match. Opinions vary. I think this looks better than this. Up to you, but you have to decide. But that's how simple it is to add ground textures. And now that I have the two textures added, I'm going to drop down on the scenery editor and save the scenery. And now I'm going back to the project editor, going to make sure I'm ticked on the package, and I am, and I'm going to build the final package. The package is built. We can exit out of the console. There is no additional errors, so window, console off. And now we can shut down the tools. Now that you can't see the outline of the polygon, do you see how well this blends in? So here is the community folder, and here is the working scenery folder. I'm going to KTYS and open the scenery folder. I'm going to open packages. And once I open packages, this is the package. I'm going to copy the package and paste it into the community folder. And here it is. I'm going to shut down the simulator and reload so it picks up the new package. Okay, back at McGee-Tyson International Airport. I'm going to hop in the developer camera. The simulator has been reloaded to pick up the package that I placed in it. And here is the grass texture I added. I could have done a better job with the polygon, and this may be because I moved it and got it out of place. But you get the idea, and you can always come back and adjust the polygon if you want to make it fit a little better. But you do see the texture was a success, and it does look different than the texture was there, and the colors tend to blend more with the colors of the area. Now we'll go down here and look at this texture I added. And this blends in very well, and because of the great fall off I gave it, it really blends in smoothly and you don't see any distinct lines like this. So that is how you change ground textures. You do it your way. Use whatever grass you want to use, whatever ground texture you want to use. The process works the same whether it's gravel or sand or whatever you choose. You just have to have the patience to go through and correct the colors and correct the texture to get it to match the surrounding area as best you can. And that will conclude the video on how to add ground textures. For those of you that want to do this but you don't know the basics, just continue watching after I say goodbye, and the tutorial series will start up and teach you all the basics that you need to know to do the work that I did here. And to all of you, I want to say thank you for watching Patriot 6. If you're not a subscriber, I would appreciate it if you would become a subscriber. It doesn't cost to subscribe. The more subscribers and views you get, the more the algorithm is fed. And with you subscribing and watching, it helps me get to more and more people, and I'd greatly appreciate that. If you have any questions, you certainly can leave them in the YouTube chat below. However, understand that in YouTube chat, the amount of help I'm able to give is limited because it comes down to me understanding your question and me being able to answer you in a way that helps you get through it. It is very hard to do in chat. So there are alternatives to reach me. One is there is a Discord channel. It will be linked below. And there's also a Patriot Six Scenery group, which is an international group of a bunch of folks that are building scenery just like you and just like me. And we all pitch in and help people that have issues. I understand Facebook is not for everybody, but it is a mechanism that can be used to get to me. I have been known to hop on Discord and help people that have problems, and I will certainly do that with you, provided you speak English and I can understand you. Then I can help you through any issue that you have. And with that, I'm going to say goodbye to all. For those of you watching tutorials, good luck. And for everybody else, thanks for watching Patriot 6, and I will see you soon. Hello and welcome to Patriot 6. I make SDK scenery tutorials for MSFS 2020. My goal is to share what I've learned with others. I don't know everything, and I have not tried every tactic available to me, but what I do know, I share on this channel. In addition, I keep up with the changes in SDK, and when appropriate, I remake videos that are commonly used and flag the obsolete video as obsolete. Here is a short tutorial series that covers the basics that you need to know to build or edit scenery. This video and all videos are built in chapters, so you can drop down to the description below and tick on a chapter you come to see. If you are new to scenery building, it's a good idea to watch the tutorials first and then continue on. I may do things in the video that seem hard to understand if you're not familiar with the basics. Before we can begin any scenery work, we must first be in developer's mode and we must obtain SDK. In developer's mode is really simple. We just want to go to Options, General Options, Developers, On, Apply and Save. And now we're in developer's mode. Once we go in developer's mode, you'll see a new menu appear at the top. I refer to this as the developer's menu. Sometimes I'll refer to it as the dev menu. So let's go to Help and let's go to SDK Installer Core in Help and tick on it. And SDK will download. And once SDK is downloaded, you want to open and install. Now I'm going to stop right here because I have SDK. As best I can recall from memory, when you install the SDK, it will go on your C drive in a folder called MSFS SDK. And once we have SDK installed, we want to go back up to the Help menu and tick on Samples and download the samples. And the process will be the same as downloading the SDK. One last thing I would like to mention is when you are in developer's mode, you will see SDK updates on the top right hand of your screen. As long as this button is blue, you are fine. If this button ever turns yellow, it means that the SDK has an update and you need to go grab the update. And getting SDK updates is the same process that I showed you in the installation. And it is very possible that you will still see this as yellow after you update the SDK. And to solve that, you can tick on this button and open up this SDK window and find the refresh button and tick the refresh button. and then the SDK icon at the top right of your screen will no longer be yellow. The tools we use for building scenery are not very complex. You can do this any way you want to do it, but I will show you how I do it. I keep a folder on the desktop called Working Scenery Folder. I recommend that you have a folder readily available to you that you can recognize, like Working Scenery Folder on your desktop, so you can get to it quickly. In addition to that, I recommend that you have a folder for completed projects. And inside this folder are all of the projects I have done. And once I'm completed a project, I move the entire folder into this in the event I ever have to come back to it. And now let's place a simple scenery folder inside of the working scenery folder. So I'm going to go back and find the MSFS SDK, and here it is on the C drive. And now I want to go to Samples and Open. And now I want to go to Dev Mode Projects folder and open. And now I want to open Sceneries. And down here we see the Simple Scenery folder, which is the most common folder we will use. So I will make a copy and paste it into the Working Scenery folder. And now I have a fresh copy of Simple Scenery in the Working Scenery folder. And I'm ready to begin building scenery. Now that I'm loaded in the simulator, I want to use the developer camera. So back up on the developer menu, under camera, I'm going to tick on developer camera, and it will place you outside the aircraft like so. Once outside the aircraft, the developer camera operates a lot like the drone camera. If I want to move forward, I can press the W key. If I want to move in reverse, I can press the S key. If I want to go left, I can use the A key. And if I want to go right, I can use the D key. If I want to rise, I could use the R key. And if I want to drop, I can use the F key. You can also use the numeral keys for certain movements. To spin to the left on the numeric keypad, you want to press 4. And to turn to the right on the numeric keypad, you want to use 6. You can also use 8 to pan up and 2 to pan down. If your azimuth gets off, which it will do when you're building scenery, you can use the 7 key to tilt to the left and the 9 key to tilt to the right. And even though you will use a combination of all of these keys while building scenery, the way you will most often move around is free movement. And you can freely move by holding down the left Alt key and using the left mouse button. Now here's what happens if I just press the left Alt button and use the mouse. Sometimes you can have fine movement like this, and sometimes you will shoot way away from where you want to be. You can always press the 5 key and it will bring you back to the aircraft. So the best practice I have found is to use the F key and drop down. Then take the left Alt key, press it, and barely move with the left mouse button. And that gives you fine control, and that's what you're looking for with the camera. Let's make our first package. So I'm going to open up the Working Scenery folder. I'm going to find Simple Scenery. I'm going to make a copy of Simple Scenery and paste it into the Working Scenery folder, and it'll show up as Simple Scenery Copy. And now I want to give this folder a name. I use a 3-word naming technique separated by hyphens. You can use whatever you want. For example, if you just want to remove trees, you can call this remove trees one word and you're done. But I always like to use a naming convention that lets me know where I am and what I'm doing. So I'm going to rename this simple scenery folder copy. And I'm going to start out with the company name, my company, Patriot 6 and one word, hyphen. I'm in Buffalo, and this is just going to be scenery. And so now anytime I refer back to this scenery folder, I know it's mine because it says Patriot 6. And I know it's in Buffalo, and I know it's a scenery project, as opposed to some other projects you may have like lights, earth, etc. And now with the simple scenery renamed, we're ready to begin. So up on the Developers menu, I'm going to Tools and open Project Editor. And the Project Editor loads up. Now everybody that I've helped and watched do scenery, they have their own idea of where the windows should go on their screen. And that's fine, there's no hard set rules. This is just something I'm accustomed to, so I continue to do the same thing that works for me. I'm also running MSFS in 4K, so my windows will be smaller than your windows if you're not running 4K. If you're running a lesser resolution, the windows will take up more of your screen. So once a project editor is up, I'm going to go to the menu on Project Editor, and I'm going to tick View and make sure the inspector's up. Now I'm going to Project on the Project Editor. I'm going to Open Project, and now I want to navigate to the Working Scenery folder. I'm going to navigate to Patriot 6, Buffalo Scenery, Open, drop down to the Scenery Project XML, and Open. And then on the project editor, you will see the package. And it's right now listed as My Company Scenery Simple. And that's where I came up with the naming nomenclature I selected. My company, the scenery, and simple. My company is always Patriot 6. The scenery is where I'm located. And the simple will be whatever type of work I'm doing. That's the logic behind the naming convention I use. Now, once this is up, we want to tick on the project, and then everything comes up in the inspector. The top part of the inspector gives the package down here its name. I prefer the package to be named the same as the folder that I'm working in. So to do that, I'm going to erase my company. I'm going to type in Patriot 6 as one word. You see Patriot 6 pop up, and you also see it down here on the package name in the project editor. Now I'm going to change Scenery Simple to Buffalo Scenery. Hyphen. And the package name matches the name of the scenery folder. The second part down here is simply for the content manager in MSFS 2020. So whatever you want it to be called when you look in the content manager. I'm going to put in Buffalo Scenery, and you can use spaces in the content manager. And then I'm going to change to Patriot 6. And now this is optional. If you want to build your own personal thumbnail, you can do that. And now I'm going to insert my own personal thumbnail. So I'm going to tick on this and navigate back to the working scenery folder. And here is the image that I've created for my personal packages. So I'm going to tick on this image and click Open. And now the image is in the package. If you want to make your own personal thumbnail, you must adhere to these rules. As it clearly states here, the only size you can use is 412 by 170 pixels. It's mandatory. And if we look the properties of the image that I created that I use, you will notice that the image is exactly 412 by 170 pixels. That is the only size that will work. You can stick with the standard thumbnail, but I prefer to have my own thumbnail. Just a personal choice. I've had a few folks ask me how to build a thumbnail. I've never talked about building a thumbnail, I just talk about thumbnails in general. It's not a function within MSFS 2020, it is a Windows function. Therefore, I haven't touched the subject until now. But since I've been asked, I will quickly show you how I make thumbnails. You can use whatever style, whatever image you like. Some people may want the thumbnail to reflect upon the area in which they're working, and some may use a standard company thumbnail like I do. Actually, I've done both. At this time, I'm sticking with my company thumbnail. In the past, I have used thumbnails that are relevant to the area in which I'm building the scenery. So I will show that right now. Since we're in Buffalo, I will find the image on the interwebs of Buffalo. Now, I could right-click and copy, or I can use the Windows Snippet tool. Now, the aspect ratio of the thumbnail is different than what we see here. So because when the aspect ratio changes, I don't want this thumbnail to be too skewed, I'll use the Windows Snippet tool to grab the image closer to the aspect ratio of the thumbnail. Here's the Windows Snipping tool. Everybody has that standard in Windows. Just going to tick New and go down and snip a portion of this image that seems close to what I think it will look like in the thumbnail. And now I have the image snipped. I can close down the browser and bring up Microsoft Paint. Nothing special, just the simple Microsoft Paint tool. I'll copy this image and paste it into Paint. Now we'll see the image needs to be cropped, so I'm going to select and crop the image. Yours may not. Mine's set up to a specific resolution. And then I'm going to tick the crop button. And now I have this image, and this is my starting point. If you want to add text in, you can do that. Find the size and the font that works for you. All right, the title's on it. And now I want to size it up where it will work in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I'm going to go to Resize. And I'm going to use pixels since we have a specific pixel number we're trying to hit. And it's 470. The vertical pixels need to be 170, so I'm going to have to unlink it and type in 170. And now I have a thumbnail that will work in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Just a matter of saving now. And it can be a JPEG. And then you want to save it into whatever folder you're going to be looking for the thumbnail. As you see, the aspect ratio is different like I said it would be. The guessing I did vertically was a little off and the picture's a little skewed. But it's a thumbnail, so it shouldn't be a big deal. You can take as much time as you want and get it perfect. That is up to you. There is a final subject that I want to touch on when it comes to building packages. When you build the package and fill in the information as I did here in the inspector, when you go down on the project editor and look at the package and tick on the arrow, by default you see My Scene BGL and My ModelLib. There is chatter out there on the interwebs, and I've actually even seen this in videos, that using the default names My Scene BGL and My ModelLib in multiple projects can cause a problem or a conflict. In full disclosure, I have no idea what the problem or the conflict looks like. I have created between 400 and 500 scenery packages, and the vast majority use the default My Scene, BGL, and My ModelLib. In my hometown of Nashville, Tennessee, I can run up to 49 packages in that one area alone, 49 that I have built. And all of them have the default My Scene, My ModelLib. If there is a problem, I've never seen it. I don't know how to explain it. I don't know what the problem looks like. But there are people out there that say it can create a problem. And if there is a potential for a problem, then certainly we want to avoid it. It's too easy of a fix to ignore it. Here is how you edit the BGLs. On the inspector, down here at the bottom, you'll see My Scene, BGL, and My ModelLib. And you simply hit the Edit button, and we'll go up to the top where it says Name, and we want to edit this name. The idea is to give it a unique name. So I've given it the name Buffalo Scenery. And this will work fine as long as I don't make multiple packages. If I do, then I may want to consider giving the next one a different name. And it changed to Buffalo Scenery. Since this is a My Scene, I want to keep the word scenery in there so it keeps me straight on which one I'm going to load into the editor. I will tick on My ModelLib, and I will go up and remove the My and add Buffalo to it. And when I tick off, it has now been renamed to Buffalo ModelLib. If this truly is a problem, we don't have to worry about it now. But just remember, when we get ready to open the project in the inspector, we want to use the BGL and not the ModelLib. This advice was recorded after I made the tutorial, and I have inserted it into the tutorial. When I go back to the tutorial, you will see what I previously recorded. And now once all of this is complete, the next step is to build the package. This should only take a few seconds. You will get a dialog box saying you're getting ready to change the information that's saved to the disk, so you want to tick Yes. And now the package is built. If we look at the top, we do not see any additional errors, so we can exit out of the console by ticking the X here, or going up to the window and exit out of the console. And now once we've built the initial package, remember, you have to build the package to start. If you don't build the package, you can go no farther than where we are right now. So you must build the initial package. And once it's built, we can go down to the little blue arrow that you can see here and tick on the blue arrow. It will open up Marketplace Data, My Scene BGL, and My ModelLib. Let's go to My Scene BGL and tick on it, and then load in Editor on the inspector. And various windows pop up. You will certainly get the scenery editor. You may not get the gizmo. You may not get the objects. So down on the scenery editor, you can go to View and tick on Objects and tick on Gizmo, because we're going to need both from time to time. The material editor is up. I'm going to move it out of the way for right now. And we'll wait on everything to load in, and I see that it has loaded in. Once all of the assets have loaded in from the scenery library, you always want to tick All when you're looking for an object to add. So we'll tick All. And now we're ready to go. What I'm going to show you is a polygon, and polygons are used a lot in MSFS 2020 scenery building. I will not go into all of the details of what to do with the polygon. There is a separate video of that. I will link it in the description below. Make sure you go to the description below. You will find the button on a YouTube video here under the description. And you can tick on Show More, and it will open you up more information. And inside this description, I will link various things, including the chapters of my video. I will place a link to a video that will teach you all things polygons, where I go through everything that you can do with polygons. And it is a video I highly recommend everybody watch because Polygon is a very common tool that you will use often. So let's build a polygon. I'm going to rise and move over here. Here looks like a good spot. Up on the Objects window, I will change from Scenery to Polygon. I'm going to tick Add. I'm going to get an error. That's because I haven't started building it yet. And now I'm going to hold the left control key down the entire time, and every left mouse tick will set an anchor point. Tick, 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 tick. And once you get to the last anchor point, with the left control key down, you want to double tick. And now the polygon is completed. So now we're done with the project. So the first thing we want to do is go down on the scenery editor and save the scenery. Always save the scenery before you stop. In fact, I would save the scenery often through the project. Now once the scenery is saved, back on the project editor, I'm going to tick on the package, the blue package at the top. And once again, the information lights up in the inspector, and you must do this. You have to build the package. The package is now built, and I could see the console behind everything, and there are no errors, so I could exit out. To recap, when you start the package and get it named, you have to build the initial package to begin. Once you're through with the scenery, and I recommend often while building, save the scenery. And then for it all to come together and the package to work, you have to build the package the final time. And now I'm going to close this project. I'm going back to the working scenery folder. I'm going to find Patriot 6 Buffalo scenery. Here it is. Here is the scenery folder we've been working on. Now if we open this folder again, drop down to packages, you see Patriot 6 Buffalo Scenery. This is the package you will drop in your community folder, or if you use the add-ons linker into whatever folder you want to use. And then once you restart the simulator, it will pick up this package, and now you know all the basics. But as time goes by and you build scenery, some of the gaps you have in your knowledge will start to fill in. And before you know it, you will be building scenery like a pro. So thank you for watching the tutorial series.